Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you back to the Slangin The Bizkit podcast. This week is going to be episode 20 of Slangin The Bizkit, the new Slangin The Bizkit podcast. This is kind of a picking up the cliffhanger from last week, but I am Travis Ridgen, also known as Trav Waters in the online YouTube community, number 33 for the Motor City Rockers, on the bench and off the bench. And I'm joined by, in my opinion, the best co-host in the hockey podcasting game, Winnipeg radio legend, good personal friend as well, Mr. Dave Wheeler. How are you, my friend?
That's me.
That's you. That is you indeed.
Yeah, good to be here, man. It's been an interesting week in the minor professional hockey circuit, has it?
Absolutely. You know what? I actually had so we had a game on Saturday, and the guys on our team, their girlfriends, came up to me after the game and said, "Did you hear about the trade rumors? Did you hear about this? Did you hear about that?" Because at this moment in time, the podcast from last week hadn't gone up, and I said, "How do you know? I haven't told anybody anything. So like, how do you?" Because and I'm putting two and two together, and I'm thinking, well, what's going on? Apparently, there's a crazy amount of like Reddit, like subreddit forums of like minor pro hockey, Facebook groups, Facebook forums, and they're just going off the charts with speculation and rumors about like what's wrong with me, why am I leaving the team, all these kind of things, and it just clicked in my head. I thought that instead of posting something online, comment section, all this kind of stuff, fighting with people, I thought that the podcast would be the best vessel for that and tell the straight goods, the straight story moving forward for this week. So
don't never forget that there are three main forms of communication if you want to get information out there. Number one is telephone, number two is telegram, and number three is telepuck bunny.
Can't say that about the guys' girlfriends. A couple of the girlfriends are very nice people.
I'm sure they're lovely human beings. I've actually got a great story about a goaltender because you're all a bunch of bloody weirdos. I don't know if he did this intentionally, but the extra shoulder pieces that the parts that go up on the top, right? He had pulled those off, and the reason why is because he said, "Well, I can't move as much," and he wasn't a big guy, and so he just didn't like having them on there. But he would get pinged off in the shoulder because there was still a little bit of protection there. He would end up with like these massive bruises. I think he was doing it to cover up all the hickeys that his puck bunny girlfriend used to give him all the time, because they would be like up towards his ear, and he's like, "Oh no, it's a puck, man, it's a puck." We're like, "Yeah, a puck named Jen."
He's vacuuming late at night.
On with it. I'm sure they're all lovely human beings in there. They're all wonderful, and God love them for being there and supporting our guys.
Speaking of support, so Dave has a morning radio show in Winnipeg. When I say Winnipeg radio legend, for the last 20 years, Dave has been atop of the morning radio show ratings in Winnipeg. And I was listening the other day. Dave was telling some stories from the podcast on the morning show, and he had mentioned that I started vlogging after graduating college hockey, and I just wanted to point out that I did not graduate university at all, only halfway to my degree, and nor did I finish up my university eligibility either.
Degree in what?
Business. I was 2 out of 4 years done for my business degree.
So why didn't you finish?
I played only 1 year college hockey for the VIU Mariners, Vancouver Island University Mariners, in Nanaimo, BC, one of the most beautiful places in Canada.
Agreed.
Fantastic for those that haven't been there. Some people say Victoria is nicer, or that was a little bit of a pun there, but yeah, both are fantastic on the island. But things just didn't work out. Like the entire time, I felt that the coaching staff never really kind of told me like the straight goods what was going on. They're always reminding me that I was never going to play games, or that I was never very good, or as opposed to like working with me to like help me get better. It was kind of like they were like knocking me down.
Well, then why did they recruit you?
That's what I wondered. Well, actually, that's an interesting story. Why don't we tell this? Because I've never actually told this story publicly. So I did a recruit trip circuit my last year of Junior B hockey, and VIU was, I think, the second last one that I did. And I remember, talking to the head coach on the phone. We'd gone over school, grades, hockey, all this kind of stuff. And the team was a new expansion university program. They had played like the first year, and then I was coming in for the second year. And talking about on the phone, I fly out there. He, texts me the day before, "Hey, I got a nasty flu. I'm probably not going to be out all week. I apologize, but the guys will be around. The guys will pick you up from the airport," which is fantastic. They'll take you around. Everything will be business as usual. And the entire time that I was there for the recruit trip, I skated 2, might have been 3 times. And the only member of the coaching staff that was actually out was the team goalie coach. That was it. No assistant coaches, no head coaches. That was it. So it was just a goalie coach. And I remember sitting down for breakfast with the team owner at the time. Miles Parsons was his name. Had a fantastic mustache. He looked kind of like a WWE character, like straight out of a Raw versus SmackDown, WrestleMania. But anyway, he takes me to breakfast, and he says, I'm really sorry about, Steve not showing up for the whole week of practice. Steve was our coach at the time. Steve Paul. We called him the tranny man because he spent more time working on transmissions at his automobile shop than actually coaching us. But so he apologizes to us, or apologized to me that Steve wasn't there, and he says, I'm really sorry. I hope you enjoyed your time. He says, what do you think of the program? I says, listen, I'd love to live here because obviously the weather in Vancouver Island is not comparable when you come from Winnipeg, where, as Dave calls it in January and February, it's the barren wasteland of minus 40 snow. It's just a terrible time to be alive if you're on the prairies during those months. So I said, I'd like to sign. And he says, well, actually, I think I got a letter of intent paper back at the office if you want to sign it. I was like, sure. This guy wasn't around all week. He had not seen me skate at all. Like the owner, he'd been doing like whatever else he was doing.
And when you say owner, I mean this is a university. So doesn't the university own the team?
So this is different. So U Sport, Canadian College Hockey, is powered by the actual university itself. So the BCIHL and the ACAC, the Alberta Collegiate Athletic.
It's the same league that the State Trojans are in. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. And then that covers volleyball and all your college athletics.
So it's affiliated to the school. So like the VIU Mariners hockey team is affiliated to the VIU Vancouver Island University school, but it's independently run. So Miles, who was the owner at the time, has his own money, his own bank account set up to the team, and he funds the team. The university just gives him the rights to use the team name, use the team logo, and operate on campus essentially. So it's run like a junior hockey team under a university setting, if that makes sense.
That's fascinating, and it's interesting to hear that, especially with the way the NCAA is moving now. I think we may see a hybrid of that coming very soon to NCAA, because with the players now having access to money based on merchandise, I don't think we're far off from seeing that.
So obviously I didn't play the entire year. Well, sorry, I played one game at Christmas time because the two starting goalies couldn't make it back in time for Christmas, so they penciled me in for a start, said, hey, we'll give you the start because they had nobody else to start. And then the other two goalies ended up coming back in time for whatever reason, so they ended up giving me the start anyway. But that's beside the point.
Man, everything comes full circle. Almost kind of very similar to the situation we're in now.
Don't jinx it, Dave. We don't want to repeat next year. We'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, so we're playing in the playoffs, and obviously, from Vancouver Island, you have to take the ferry over to the mainland, then travel wherever you want, in the interior in the mainland of BC. And I heard a story that apparently our team credit card or our team bank account just completely ran out of money. There was $0 left, and we had to pay the bill for the bus to take us onto the ferry to play. I think it was SFU, Simon Fraser University, I believe. And the owner,
relative of mine, by the way, Simon Fraser. Go on.
We'll have to get to that later.
Yeah.
But the owner, his daughter, put the $11,000 tab on her credit card because the team couldn't afford to put it on theirs to get to the university. Obviously, they're still floating around somehow, especially after COVID. But that's how the BCI works.
Interesting. So why did you leave?
I left because I felt that I wasn't going to be getting an opportunity. I felt like they were looking to replace me in any opportunity they could. I also felt that the team environment wasn't very positive. I thought it was very cancerous, and I felt at the time I only had one friend on the team. That was my boy, Sweens, who's been on the podcast once. I lived with him in Sweden for a little bit in Flemingsburg in the Stockholm area. Everybody else, it kind of felt like I didn't get along with very well, or they didn't understand me, and I just thought that when the first opportunity came to take that tryout with the University of Manitoba Bisons, I was like, dude, I'm out of here. See you later. I need any reason to leave. And obviously that ended up not working out, and then ended up in Sweden, and now here we are in Motor City. So that's how that worked out.
Out of curiosity, and I wouldn't mind getting into a quick little chat here about college hockey in Canada, because I've got a couple good ones. But for those that don't know, just to give you an indication, the way the NCAA works is if you play Tier 1 junior hockey, you lose a year of eligibility for the NCAA. But what these Tier 1 Junior A teams do is they say, you give us a year, and then we will pay for a year of Canadian university. So a lot of times you'll see guys at 22, 23 years old go back and play college hockey for 4 years in Canada, depending on how many years they've played in the Western Hockey League or the OHL or the QMJHL, which is otherwise known as the CHL, the Canadian Hockey League. So you got a lot of, I would say, adult students playing, and it's really good hockey, and it's not supported in Canada nearly as much as it should, because there's a lot of great hockey players. But I'm curious to know, because I know the NCAA gets a bad rep as far as if you're a student athlete, then you're more athlete than you are student. How is it in Canada. I know you can only speak for the one university that you played for, but was the scholastic aspect of it as much of a priority as the hockey?
First off, I played one game. I practiced for the team for the entire season, though. As far as the scholastic, I guess the academic side of things, I thought that there was a lot of wiggle room with like my professors and whatnot being on the team. They thought that I was traveling every week, and I really wasn't. I'd say, I need an extension on this project. I was going to be at home with my girlfriend for the entire week, and I just wanted more time to get the projects done. So that was actually quite nice. I think the overall school experience was good. I never had any complaints about that. I tried, getting picked up by different teams in the league, or like the 2 new expansion teams they had in Fraser Valley and UBCO in Kelowna, but I wanted to stick with pro in Sweden, which led me over here. So
now I'll tell a brief story, and again, I don't want to throw every NCAA school under the bus, but I'll talk about one in particular about a friend of mine who went to go play at Alaska Fairbanks, and he played Tier 2 junior. So you've got Tier 1 junior, which is your CHL. Then you got Tier 2, which is the CJHL, I believe they still call it, the Canadian Junior Hockey League. So they will play for eventually what is called the Royal Bank Cup, and it's from province to province, coast to coast. You win your league, then you play a divisional or a provincial rival, and then you make your way to this final tournament. And after playing that, he ended up getting a scholarship to the University of Fairbanks, Alaska. And it was within the first 3 weeks of being there, he got, all the rookies are like, hey, rookies, team meeting with the captains, show up in the dressing room, 8 o'clock Friday night. So he's like, okay, here we go. This is another round of hazing. Went through it through midget, went through it through junior, and here comes the college version of being a rookie and getting hazed. And so all the rookies are sitting around in the room, and the captain and the assistant captains have a table set up in the shower area. So one by one they get called in, and then they exit out another door. So you don't actually, it's kind of like a psychiatrist's office where you never actually see the person that's in. They exit through a different door. And so my buddy goes in, and they go, sit down. And it's like a tribunal. You got 4 guys sitting there at this table. And they're like, what's your name? He gives his name, and they go, what's your major? And he says, I'm majoring in communications. And he goes, okay. And he goes down into this file folder and looks through, and all of a sudden pulls out a whole bunch of papers and goes, here's 4 years of communications, all your tests and all your assignments and everything. Focus on hockey. Get the fuck out.
But that's how it is, though, with the university programs, though. Like they have to preach, and this is just what I've observed, they have to preach school first, hockey second, just for the scene of the public eye. It is not the case. That is not the case. And if you're playing college sports, they want the sporting first because you bring money into the university programming, which then they put back in to get more international students and more revenue for the school. They don't care about the schooling side for you. You're an asset.
Well, I can tell you just how bad it is. And again, I'm not trying to throw the entire league, the entire NCAA under the bus. But again, when you're a student athlete, you are there primarily to be an athlete. And a perfect indication of that, this is probably about 15 years ago. I'm sitting at a restaurant in Winnipeg, and it's a training camp season for the Canadian Football League. And these guys are sitting, it's a big kind of like a horseshoe bar. And I'm sitting on one end, these guys are sitting on the other end. And a bunch of guys sit down, and I was like, oh, damn, that guy was like a Heisman Trophy finalist one year. Like, I didn't know he was at camp this year. And so they're sitting down, and I'm just kind of ignoring my business. I'm sitting there by myself, and they're having lunch and hooting and hollering, and all of a sudden the bartender comes over to take their order. And this one guy starts pointing at, hey, what can I get for you? He's like, hey, I'll just take the chicken and then the grits over here. And he's pointing at the menu and whatnot. And the bartender goes, we don't have grits, actually. He's like, oh, just the fries or whatever. Just give me some French fries. And he's kind of just pointing at the menu. And then I thought, I don't think he can read. No, seriously. I mean, and that was an indication of me going, that guy was a Heisman Trophy finalist 4 years at a premier school in the United States of America under the NCAA banner, and I don't think he could even weave a basket.
Well, I think that's why you see so many guys in pro hockey when they get into, I don't want to say a rut, but like they've played for like a long period of time, is that like they don't know what else to do with their lives. Like they've played hockey, they've been a hockey player their whole life. It's what they're good at. It's what they know. It's how they know how to make money. And they just never get a real job. It's why you see guys playing like late 30s, 40s, like grizzled vets, like 1,000 games in the coast, or guys right now in the Fed that got 300, 500, 1,000 games played. Just absolute vets, grizzled vets.
Now, do you think part? Listen, I think we can say part of that is just for the love of the game. I get it, but the other part is like, got to make some money. One of the few things I'm really good at because I never really learned anything else.
I'll agree, but I think I'd say half of those guys love it and do it because they love the game. They don't know what else to do. The other half, it's because they're like, they hate hockey, but they hate the idea of like switching to get like a real job even more, I think.
Well, I've had a few buddies. I'm getting to the age now where a lot of guys that I played with have either retired or looking to retire or have retired for a few years. And that transition of going from playing to not playing, I was lucky enough that I went through that at 18. And it was tough then, but I couldn't imagine doing it in your late 30s or early 40s where it's like, all right, you're done, figure something else out, bye. There's really no support system after, and it's kind of heartbreaking, honestly, to see some of these guys go through the mental anguish that they go through because they were so used to being this person for so long, and it's like, what are you gonna do now?
You bring up a good point because I think that although the schooling system, like I think is dangerous as a whole, like from like elementary to high school to university, of just like follow the curriculum, right, all this kind of stuff, and you'll be successful in life. I think the system that they set up in sports, specifically hockey, is even worse because these guys have been told from their 13, 14, you're a hockey player. You're going to be a hockey player. Okay, well, you go to play major junior. All right, things don't work out. You can't get a pro offer that you want. You go play U Sport. You play 3-4 years of U Sport. You still can't get that pro offer, or maybe you get the pro offer and things just don't work out, or you realize this actually sucks. Pro hockey is a glamorized term, but it's actually not as glamorous as you may think it is. And they realize, I got to do something else.
Well, I just want to give a suggestion, if you will, and this is something that happened in my household, and I didn't really agree with it at the time, but boy, has it ever paid off since. My parents are like, oh, so you want to play a sport? Cool. If you play a sport, you learn an instrument. And so because I played hockey, I learned piano. And they go, oh, you want to play hockey and you want to play soccer in the summer? Cool. You got to learn another instrument. So then I learned piano and guitar. And they're like, oh, you want to give basketball a try after school? No problem. Got to learn another instrument. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll learn trumpet in the school. So I'm at the point now where I'm not great at any of them, but I'm decent enough that I can pick something up and play with it. And that hasn't, I think it has benefited me in my radio career because I'm able to, be musical and write parody songs and do some fun stuff like that. And having a musical background, sure, it was a pain in the butt, but it also taught me how to multitask. A lot of times if you're going to be a student athlete in the NCAA, you have to take a time management course in your first semester. It's a mandate that you have to take it because you have to be able to balance your work or your school life with your hockey life. And again, I just think there needs to be a better balance starting young. And I know we got a lot of hockey moms and hockey dads listening out there, but don't let that be the only focus. Cross-train your kids with a whole bunch of different things and teach them to be multitaskers. Teach them that if you're going to do this, then you have to do that. It's not just one thing hyper-focused because more often than not, the actual percentage of kids that go on to play professional hockey, very, 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 very low. And if you train them that way the entire time, they're probably going to end up falling off and then going, well, I don't know what to do now. And they're going to live in your basement for the rest of your days.
But guess what? If they are living in your basement, something you do not want to mess around with is having your ball bag stick to the side of your leg, which is why you need a pair of Sheath Underwear. Listen, you got your kids living in your basement. If the kids are living in the basement, you don't need your ball bag on the side of your leg. I'll tell you, that's 2 headaches you don't need. And the team at Sheath is here to help you. Now, I'll just tell you this right now. First off, shout out to the team at Sheath. We just got a brand new contract for 6 more months, so we'll be working with Sheath until July 1st of 23. So thank you to everybody who has supported Sheath and supported the podcast to date. But here's why. Sheath is game-changing. They have come into the game and introduced the dual pouch technology, which is a segregated compartment for your dick and for your balls. We're saying the word because we're being honest, and we're going to tell you exactly how it is. The separated
that
compartment
would be the penis and the testicles.
Too much, Dave. Too much. We might get flagged to that on YouTube.
What? I use the medical terms. You use the slang words. You're going to get flagged, not me.
Well, I'll sling my biscuit into the basket, into the dual pouch, and I'll tell you what. So the compartment is segregated so that it is physically impossible for your man parts to touch. It is literally impossible. If you can get it to stick, well, I guess I'm a liar then. But it's impossible. And they don't stick. They won't sweat. They won't stick to the side of your leg. It's awesome. Their bamboo mesh technology is really comfortable. It's cooling. I've been using Sheath for over 2.5 years. Game changing. The same underwear that I had 2.5 years ago is the same stuff I wear today. I think it was actually... Yep, I'm still wearing the demo package underwear today. Dave as well is a recent converter, and you can get yours today If you're on the YouTube video version, there's a link in the video description. You're going to go to sheathunderwear.com, use the code BIZKIT69, BIZKIT 69. If you're on the Apple or the Spotify notes, you can go on the podcasting notes for the same thing. You tap the link, it'll take you there. You add the code BIZKIT69. There's also a link tree on the Slangin The Bizkit Instagram page. It'll take you all there. You get 20% off the best underwear that money can buy.
By the way, I know Robert, who owns Sheath, listens to this podcast, and he's a big fan. Thank you very much, Robert. Is there any way we can get custom-made Sheath underwear with the Travis Ridgen logo right on the front?
With my face right on your dick and balls.
Just right there. Yep.
Coming for 2023.
Throwing it out there.
Speaking of throwing things out there, I had this thought the other day. This is a little bit off topic. But Jordan Binnington for the St. Louis Blues has got to be like the perfect goalie to play in the Fedzino. The absolute perfect goalie. The guy loses his mind. He has meltdowns on the regular. He's punching guys. He's throwing jabs. He's diving. He's throwing fake blockers. Like, this guy is the textbook definition of the guy that Joe Pace would want to sign for the Mississippi Sea Wolves right now, for the Mississippi Sea Coliseum. Their home rate. Wow, that is a tongue twister. Holy.
Now, he just, I saw the headline. I didn't see exactly what happened, but apparently the Blues weren't overly happy with him. I don't know if it was his antics or if it was a comment or whatnot, but do you know anything more about this?
Yes, so they're playing Pittsburgh. I guess it would have been last night at the time of recording this podcast, but when this podcast goes up on Sunday, it would have been a week ago. So Penguins are winning. I know specifically there was a dump in where Binnington stops, plays the puck. He goes back into his net and kind of gives the Penguins guy, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Zucker, gives him the old forearm shiver, the Tony Heisman, the see you later alligator, and got a penalty. And then Zucker scores this just greasy ice burner from the slot on him. 4-1 Penguins, and they give him the yank, and Binnington gets the yank. He immediately takes his mask off, skates to the Penguins bench. He's yapping, he's tripping at guys. Ref has to pull him back, throw him back on the bench. And there's been a couple incidences where he's trying to fight a guy way bigger than him, and ends up being one of those, hold me back, because the ref's like right there. But the second the ref goes away, he scurries back into his hole. It's very interesting to watch. So there's that. And I think the best part that nobody was talking about was, so he gets pulled. Thomas Greiss comes in. And when Thomas Greiss comes into the crease, he falls. He goes ass over tea kettle, eats shit, knocks the net off, and the fans just jeer him. Way to go, Greisser. Incredible.
Now, this is not the same Jordan Binnington that we saw 4 or 5 years ago when the Blues won the Stanley Cup. He was a little more reserved. I mean, is that because he was a rookie? Like, is he on drugs? Like, do we know what's wrong with him?
I'd be curious if there is something going on. Because, I mean, you've had... The Cup run was phenomenal. Like, watching that Cup run live, the first series against the Jets stood on his head in the Cup final. Clinch save after clinch save against the Bruins, especially in Game 7. That fantastic cross-crease split save, I think on Torrey Kruger, might have been McAvoy. Since then, just seems like something's missing. I don't know if it's something upstairs, but he seems a little bit unhinged, and he's just always up to something.
Yeah,
it's entertaining.
Someone needs to check in on Binnington. So if someone listening to this podcast knows Jordan, so somebody check in on him.
Another guy we should check in on too is Big Sexy.
I talked about him on my radio show last week.
I know. Well, what a man to talk about on the show. Here's an update for you. I know Dave didn't tell the full story. So Big Sexy and I, Elias Thompson is his name. We did a massive can haul. I had a message on Instagram from somebody who says, hey, I've had like a year and a half worth of cans. You want to come collect them? You can take them. And for those that are joining the podcast fresh, Big Sexy, as I call him, Elias Thompson, he doesn't make any money on the side, doesn't have a side job on top of playing on the Fedzino. So he goes and collects cans around the arena. He'll do runs around the rink, and he just goes and trades them in. That's what he does for side money. He always has like a bag, like a garbage bag full of cans on him because he's making money. He's always working. And so this guy says, come on down, get the cans. So me and him go. We link up. We go to the guy's place. It was incredible. It's like 30 full bags of cans. We filled his GMC Trailblazer all the way to the roof with just bags of cans, traded them in. $150 US of cans. That's
Boom.
How much he made.
Nice.
$150. And I'm thinking to myself, this is great. I know he promised that he would buy me lunch in exchange for hooking him up, and I said, this is awesome. I get a free lunch out of it. We get to film a cool video. He gets rich. He gets like an extra week of pay for collecting cans. Everybody wins. I see him the next day. I said, Sexy, so what'd you do with the money? You put it aside or what? He's like, actually, I lost it all at the Chino last night.
Now, for those that don't know what the Chino is, it's a casino. Oh, no. No, he didn't.
And I asked him, I said,
what's his game? What's his game? What does he play?
Blackjack, I believe.
Oh, man.
I told him he should have just put it all on red and see what happens right away. And he says, Trav, it would be irresponsible for me to sit on that money. You got to try to double it. You got to double it. Got to turn that 150 into a 3.
Oh man. Well, listen, I told a really inspiring story about him and how he's willing to do whatever it takes to keep playing hockey and living the dream and going around and collecting cans. I'm glad I didn't get that part of the story that he blew it all at the casino after for all those kids that were inspired. Like, there's a guy that I can look up to. There's a guy I'm gonna be like one day.
As he's at the casino with his white fur coat and his ladies on the side, he's putting money down on red.
Did he pull it? For those that don't know, old Strevy, who's a former quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, mentioning them again, during the Grey Cup parade, nothing but a fur coat. That was it, and just the abs showing. Was he rocking that at the Chino?
He absolutely. There's a video. I can't put it on the video podcast, but one of the guys sent me a video the other day of him with the Chino having a good time with his fur coat. It was hilarious. And even better, so he blew all the money to the casino from the cans, and he got player of the game. He got fight of the night bonus for a fight right off the opening draw, like
what
right
is this,
off
the UFC.
Basically, it was like SmackDown, like the first period opening face off has a fight against the Delaware tough guy. I thought give Big Sexy the edge. I'd say it was a draw. They both landed some good strikes early on. Landed up on the ground or on the ice. It was great. So he got fight of the night bonus and player of the game because he got his first goal in the Fedzino, and he got the Gordie Howe hat trick. Got a goal, assist, and a fight all in the same game. And I'll tell you this. Here's the best part about it, Dave. I was with him earlier that afternoon. We went to Tim Hortons. He got his dirty double-double. And he says to me in the drive-thru, he says, Trav, tonight's the night, kid. I'm getting the first goal. I'm not just getting the first goal. I'm going to get a Gordie. Getting the Gordie Howe hat trick tonight. And I was like, okay. And then
he called his own shot? Come on. He pulled a Babe Ruth?
He did it. He did it up, and he followed it up by driving through the bank parking lot, yelling at people in the parking lot that he had a Gordie Howe hat trick in Russian.
No, in Russian. He's not even Russian.
Yeah. His best friend and my roommate that I share a room with right now, Artie, he was teaching him how to say all these things in Russian. It's hilarious. He'll be in his white fur coat, his sunglasses, no stogie, obviously, doesn't smoke that I'm aware of. And he'll just be driving his GMC Trailblazer, yelling at people how he's going to get the Gordie Howe hat trick. It's hilarious.
No better place to brag about a Gordie Howe hat trick than in the Detroit area. How about that?
In the greater Detroit area. Speaking of gong shows.
Really quickly, have you driven by the Gordie Howe bridge yet?
I have not. I don't own a car, Dave.
Go check that out. Go see it. I want to get a first-hand account of what it looks like.
Well, if I leave right now, I should be back in time for next week's podcast.
Perfect.
Anyway, speaking of gong shows, I know we talked about player coaches recently, and I know we talked about us having power on this podcast to influence the Fedzino minor pro world.
It's my wife would call it manifesting. Yes,
we have manifested the minor pro world into this. So get this straight. So the Watertown Wolves had a head coach player, Justin Coachman, fired him on a Monday. He was then signed as second pair D in Binghamton 2 days later. So went from head coaching Binghamton or Watertown to second pair D in Binghamton.
Head coaching and playing, or just head coaching?
So head coach player in Watertown, just playing in Binghamton.
Wow.
And they played Watertown 2 nights later.
Come on.
Serious, they probably dropped him off on the team bus. Here you go, coach.
Wow. Well, as you said on the podcast last week, did they say, okay, pack up your stuff and then just jump on the bus with us?
Probably. It probably went something along those lines. Another story that I heard too, and this is good. Also, when we talk about Joe Pace is like the Jackie Moon legend of the Federal League. I've seen a bunch of stuff in the minor pro forums wondering why Joe Pace hasn't tried to trade for me, because it would be such a match. You have the greatest promoter in the history of the Fedzino with the Gong Show, the traveling circus that I have. But anyway, so the reason why I'm telling the story. So Joe Pace, if you don't know, he was owner, player, coach in Port Huron, trades himself to Mississippi, appoints himself player, owner, assistant coach with the Mississippi Seawolves this season. They fired their head coach last week, and then he appointed himself head coach of the team. Now he's taken over the reins as head coach. And 3 years ago, he had this marketing idea that they want to try to bring more people into the games, into the Fed, and that nobody's coming around from warm-ups. We want to get people in the door early. Beer sales go up, popcorn sales go up. It makes sense. So he devised a strategy that during warm-ups, both teams would commence a shootout, like the shootout that you have at the end of the game, right after warm-ups. So warm-ups, the shootout, flood the ice, game. Reason being, the shootout for the end of the game would be before warm-ups because it would give people a reason to come to the game. So if the game did go to overtime and it was scoreless, whoever won that warm-up shootout won the game. So there was a couple instances where Port Huron won the shootout.
How is he allowed to do that?
when you're player, owner, coach, anything goes in the Fedzino day.
Wow.
So they're doing the shootout after warm-ups, and Port Huron wins. So overtime was basically a 5-minute, keep the puck to yourself and don't let the other team touch it, because if we don't get scored on, we win the game. Obviously, this was very shortly after kiboshed, and that's no longer a thing. But, welcome to the jungle.
That is unbelievable. It's wow. I'm trying to think of something that's comparable to that, of how something is decided. That's insane.
There was also, I was told, I can't say who, what team, but apparently there was a guy in the Fedzino that was traded 3 years ago for a new team bus.
Wow. And
apparently the terms and conditions for the trade we talked about last week, me getting traded for a hotel stay and a steak dinner, that's very common. Apparently that is 98%, I was told, of all future considerations on a league website. So when you see future considerations, people think of, oh, we owe you a player, chalk one up later. Nope, it's usually a steak dinner and hotel accommodations or sticks or a bus or a massage table, or we'll take your physiotherapist, ship them on over, or something like that.
Unbelievable. What a world, man. The stories you will have to tell on this podcast for years to come. I can't wait to hear them all. Once you can pull back the curtain a little bit and you don't have any more affiliation with any of these, I just can't wait for everyone to hear some of the deep, dark secrets of what happens in minor pro hockey.
Yeah, obviously I tell Dave everything, and I tell Dave the uncensored version, obviously, for the podcast, whether you're listening on the YouTube video version or on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast. I give you the very tame version, and we have to twist a lot of the truths to not get myself in trouble, because contractually I'm not allowed to talk about some of the stuff, and I haven't gotten in trouble yet, so hopefully we can keep that going. But yeah, whenever the day comes when we can pull the curtain back, it's going to be a crazy show of stories. But anyway, one thing, I guess the headliner we'll get into, because we've been going on for about a half hour here. People have been asking, lots of speculation, lots of rumors about like what's been going on. Why am I not with the Motor City Rockers on the team? Why am I not on the website?
Chat on the YouTube was lit.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So if you listen to the Motor City Rockers intermissions, so they're usually quiet during the intermission. So if you watch the games, Ben and Brady, our play-by-play guys, they usually do a play-by-play during the games, and in the intermission it's quiet. But for our game on Saturday night, they had an interview with me during the first intermission, which if you're used to tuning out, you wouldn't have heard it. But so that gave you the kind of early preview, but not a lot of details. And so here's basically the full story of, in case you missed it, I was recently put on season-ending injury reserve for the Motor City Rockers. I know we talked about the trade rumors and whatnot, but here's the deal. So to provide some context, I want to rewind just a little bit. So this summer, so June, July of 22, I was finally able to get in with a hip surgery specialist, with a surgeon, to talk about getting hip surgery, because for the last 2 years, I have had so many injuries, knee and groin and hip issues that have been linked to the issues that I have in my hips. And for those that don't know, so cam hip impingement, it's basically a massive bone growth, a callus on the femur, which is the body's defense system against goaltending. Very common in goaltenders, extremely common in big goaltenders, and obviously I'm a goaltender, I'm 6'5", I meet that criteria quite nicely, unfortunately, and it's the body's way to get me to stop doing the things that I do in net, because it doesn't like it. They don't know why, but this is what they know.
You can blame Patrick Waugh for this.
Patrick Waugh is 100% his fault. Well, and my parents for bad genetics, because they birthed me at this size. Well, not like out of the womb at this size, but I became this size, so we do have some bones to pick with both my parents on that. It doesn't help having parents with both bad knees, but anyway, beside the point. So I meet with the surgeon, and the previous year, I have not been able to skate one time without steroid injections, so cortisone in my knee, because the issues in my hip have trickled down into my knee, and I can't do a butterfly without like piercing pain, like pulling through my knee. And so the steroids fixed that. And I documented that last year in Sweden for a short period of time. People thought it was just a knee issue. It was directly related to the hip issue that I have and the surgery pending. And so I get into the hip surgeries, the surgeon specialist, and he says, you don't have the worst hips I've ever seen, but they're pretty up there. And I don't see a way how you're going to be able to finish this season. So I think we should get you.
So you're like Shakira, these hips don't lie?
These hips do lie, and I'll tell you who to in a second. But so he says, you're not going to be able to finish the season. We need to get you in for surgery. You're going to be so happy that you got it done. And I said, okay, trust me, I'm tired of taking cortisone injections and destroying my knee, because it breaks down the tissue in my knee, and my knee's getting soft because of it. But I'm at a point right now, Doc, where I just finished playing 2 years in Sweden. I was on a very weak team where I think I exceeded expectations and put up very good numbers with the circumstances that I'm in. And I just got signed in the Fed. If I take the year off for surgery, nobody's going to want me. I need to get my foot in the door and get off to a start in the season. And he says, okay, well, we'll book surgery dates for the beginning of the season and just back it up as we go because you're going to need it during the season. It's just a matter of when. And I said, well, I'm going to get some more cortisone injections for the last time. And when it runs out, it runs out. But I need to play for this team and I need to get off to a start. Or like I think that my competitive playing days are done, especially going from where I was in Sweden to the Fed. Big jump. Very unheard of. So that's very critical. So in September, I ended up getting my third injection of cortisone steroids this calendar year to play for the start of the season. And keep in mind that these cortisone injections are only like a temporary Band-Aid. They just fix the pressure and the inflammation in my knee to make it so that I can play for a little bit. And every injection, it gets less effective because the body's used to getting rid of the cortisone. And what cortisone does is it dries up the inflammation, it crystallizes it, the body gets rid of it. But there's not always inflammation at all times. And when there's not, it eats away at the tissue on the front of the knee where the injection is being placed. So
cortisone should sponsor the NHL playoffs because the amount of guys that have gotten shots. Wayne Gretzky is another one. There's something you have in common with Wayne Gretzky. After he took that hit from behind from Gary Suter back in the day, he finished off his career with cortisone shots in his back. And I think he probably could have played a little bit longer and put up a lot more numbers had he not been getting cortisone shots. You're right. It's a Band-Aid. It's an evil one. It's an evil Band-Aid because it doesn't do you any favors down the road. That's for sure.
Well, that's one of the things that our team physiotherapist, like he's been in on this the whole time, and I told him like at the beginning of the season, I was like, you need to shut your mouth and help me because I need to get through the season, and I can't have you telling people because obviously they're going to get rid of me and replace me. And it is a replacement, but the problem is that it's a temporary Band-Aid, and it doesn't fix the problem, it makes it worse when it's done. So anyway, so get up to the start of the season. October was fantastic. October, I had no issues. I felt normal as I should be. The cortisone usually lasts about 3 months plus. So the expectation is that it's going to run out sometime middle of January-ish. Might be later, maybe a little bit sooner, but that should be the timeline. When we went on a road trip to Binnington, I guess about a month ago, we had traveled 11 hours in the bus. We get to Binnington at around 11. We're supposed to have morning skate, 10:45 to 11:45. In my mind, I'm thinking, dude, we're late. There's no way we're going to skate. Well, coach says, everybody off the bus. We're skating in 15 minutes. Let's go. And in my head, I'm like, so I need to show up to the rink an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours early to get a proper warm-up and get everything lubricated so I'm not hurting myself. And I'm thinking, now I got to go in, no warm-up, cold. I got to go, practice and do what my job description is. And I can't tell coach what's going on because then they're going to be, well, why do you need 2 hours to get ready for warm-up? Or for morning skate? Why can't you skate? So keep this to myself. Do the morning skate. My knee is just on fire, killing me the rest of the day. Now, obviously, the cortisone is there to fix it up, but ever since then, it's been progressively going downhill. And I would describe the last 2 to 3 weeks between the injury in my knee and the impingement in my hip, where the labrum has been torn. Well, so they can't confirm the labrum is torn until they actually physically get in there. But doctors do believe that it is torn. To how much they don't know, but pretty good. And so the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've had, I don't know how many moments on the ice where I'm literally at the point of like tears. Like I want to cry on the ice under my mask because I'm in so much pain. Like post integrations, having flare in my butterfly, just the amount of reps in an hour and a half practice, traveling, warm ups, all this kind of stuff. Like I'm at the point of tears. And after practice, last week, or I guess the week before, at the time of recording this podcast, I was just at a point where I couldn't do a butterfly without this like searing pain through my knee and through my hip. And I just said the next day, I called my agent, obviously called my family, called Dave. Everybody's on the same page. Like, just get the surgery. You have a date booked for January. Just get healthy and help yourself because you're of no use if you destroy everything. And so I ended up going into the management's office and I laid everything out to them very, very bluntly. I told them the straight goods of what's been going on. And they were very, very understanding. I honestly, I was expecting a lot of pushback and a lot of questioning. Okay, well, let's send you to a specialist. Let's get all this confirmed. They just took me at face value, and I told them the straight truth. And so they ended up putting me on season-ending injury reserve, which obviously sucked because I was supposed to start 2 days later on Saturday. Would have been my first start, which we'll get to in a second. But so I'm on the season-ending injury reserve. They want to withhold my rights so that no team can pick me up because in the Fed, you have two options. You can release me or you got to pay me. So they didn't want to release me because obviously with the trade interest, obviously somebody would pick me up. So they decided that they're going to keep me on season-ending injury reserve and pay me for the rest of the season, which is awesome because obviously I need hip surgery and I'm going to be laying flat, being a vegetable basically for January and February. So that extra salary is going to be a big help So thank you to the team for that, and just them being very supportive.
Whoa. So what happens with this podcast? What happens with the vlog? What's going on with that? I think that's what people really want to know.
Yes. So as far as the vlog goes, the vlog is going to finish out the way that it is. Obviously, the vlog's a little bit behind at this moment in time, but it will finish out telling the story. Moving forward, I want to do a once a month update vlog, kind of on like how my rehab is going, showing the mobility, the range of motion, and everything that I'm getting. Because the goal with this is to go from a guy who has been very limited physically and couldn't give the team or myself the ability to be the goaltender that I wanted to be, to I have brand new range. I'm going to have like 20 extra degrees of external rotation in my hip. I'm not going to be in chronic pain. I'm not going to be carrying a stupid backpack of rollers and lacrosse balls and massage guns and stim machines to keep myself loose at all times. I'm going to be actually able to function as like a normal human being. And I'm very conflicted too about it, because on one half I'm very depressed and upset because I just lost the opportunity to have my first start of the season the team was willing to give me, which obviously we'll never know if I was going to get it, but it was promised as of last week. And I'm not going to be with the team, and I'm going to being literally a vegetable for 2 months and trying to work back into like becoming normal by April, May, and then start building progress from there. But I'm also very like happy and relieved because like for the first time in years, I'm not going to be in chronic pain, always having this like pinching, clamping feeling in my hip, and like I said, the last 2 to 3 weeks wanting to cry. And I mean, even like the injuries that I've talked about the last couple of years with like down in Columbus, down even for a short period of time at VIU, coming back from Sweden, all of these injuries are linked to this one hip impingement that I need surgery for. So
is this like a Henry Rowan-Gartner situation from 1993's Rookie of the Year, where he gets Tommy John surgery and all of a sudden he can like whip the baseball really, like you'd be able to kick that side out like way quicker after the surgery?
So I believe right now I'm only getting about 5 degrees of external rotation in my hip. 5 to 8 is what they measured me at, and so he's gonna be adding about 20. So I'm gonna have about 30 degrees of external rotation in my hip.
You're gonna be able to kick rebounds down to the other end of the ice.
I'm gonna be doing a lot more than what I've been doing the last little bit, which is awesome. Really, really, really awesome. As far as the podcast goes, so the podcast is going to continue on every single week. There may be like a period in January where there is no podcast for a very short period of time, just because I can only like lay flat like on a bed or on a couch, so it's kind of hard when I have to sit up like this, or unless somebody wants to watch me podcast kind of like from the ceiling. Dave and I talked about this the other day, like a camera coming face down like this. If you're on the video version of the podcast, you can see this. But so there's going to be some hurdles for sure. The podcast will continue. I think the next 2 or 3 episodes I got like Ian White and Big Sexy coming on, some hockey stuff. We're going to still be telling hockey stories. We're going to be doing all the normal podcasting stuff you expected, talk about the Fedzino, all that stuff. It's going to continue moving forward and into what is hopefully going to be a healthy season next year.
Does that mean I'm still involved? Am I sticking around?
Yes.
Am I still going to be here? You still need me?
Yes.
Oh.
The podcast has been explosive since Dave came on, and Dave is not going anywhere. And I think that everybody in the comments section every single week agrees with that Dave has made the podcast 10 times better.
Should I go tell my wife? Because she was curious.
Yes. Bring your wife on. We haven't seen your wife.
Tell my wife? I'll go tell my wife. Hang on a sec here.
Okay, I'll take this over. So anyway, so Dave is married to...
They still want me on the podcast. Yeah. Travis wants to talk to you.
So Dave is married to a former Playboy Bunny model, Candice Ray, and she should be coming on the podcast in 2 seconds. Where is she? She's rolling up like Limp Bizkit. No, she's not. Dave is there. I don't know what's going on here. Where's your wife, Dave? Where's your wife?
She's coming.
Okay.
She's coming. The dog's coming. We're all in the home studio.
The whole family's here.
Oh boy. Hello?
Hello, Miss Candice. How are you?
Hi, how are you today?
I'm very good. I feel relieved that we can tell people the truth now.
Oh, the truth that I exist?
Well, that you exist, and I'm done for the season because I'm actually going to get healthy for the first time in years.
I'm so happy for you. That has to feel good.
We just talked about it, but it's kind of depressing that the season's done and I'm not with the team anymore, but I'm happy that by September I'm going to be, like my full self and be able to become the goalie that I want to be and not in chronic pain all the time.
That's right. Make sure you take your recovery seriously.
Mm-hmm. And actually, so the reason that Candice is, Candice obviously lives with Dave. They're married.
Oh, we do? Oh, I didn't know.
No,
it's a recent change. Common law, like Gene Simmons, where Shannon threatens you after 25 years. You marry me or I'm done.
No. I liked it, so I put a ring on it.
In the words of Beyonce. But the reason why Candice is here is so as far as like moving forward with like my hip surgery, my recovery. So I'm going to be going back to Winnipeg. By the time this podcast goes up, I'll be back in Winnipeg because I got to get some physical stuff done. I got to get a CT. I got to get some like pre-surgery stuff done. But after that, and I get the surgery, I'm going to go into Vancouver with my girl, Victoria. Miss her very much. She's going to be taking care of me in her/our apartment, and to bring things back full circle. I remember when Dave was telling the story about how him and Candice met, and within 4 months of meeting, they were moving in together. Well, and I said it was crazy. I thought it was a little bit of a nutty concept at the time. Now I guess I'm following in the same footsteps. So hopefully things go well. I'm excited for that because I'm going to be in Vancouver for basically most of the new year until I'm ready to start skating again in July with my beautiful, stunning, intelligent, sophisticated girlfriend. And
Well, do you want
Wow, that was a lovely, like for her. Wow, that is a nice.
Are you looking for a little
description.
preview on what to expect? Is that what you're looking for here?
Yeah, sure. Give me the preview. What do you think I should expect? I mean, keeping in mind that you have, both her and I are feet taller than both you and Candice. But.
You only got
Listen,
3 inches on me, pal.
I'm 5'6.5".
Yeah.
That half makes a big difference, okay? Honestly, I mean, Dave and I have been together for 13 years, going into our 14th year, and it's been amazing. We've had a really good time. We've had some difficult times, but those first years are so fun. You get to know so much about each other. But what I would suggest is to just take everything like really presently. There's a lot of times like, well, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about Christmas next year? What are we going to do about birthdays? Don't think about that kind of stuff right away. Just think about the moment, that present moment. That's so important.
If you're going to be following our timeline, if you will.
Get a dog.
Yeah, expect to get a dog.
Yeah.
Within the first 3 months. Great Dane.
Oh, she's working on me for that already.
Already? Oh, yeah. Dog's a great idea because then you're really going to know each other out right away.
Get a Great Dane. Go on a trip.
Go on a trip together.
And name your dog after the first trip that you go on together.
They don't have to do everything we did.
Yeah, they do. And expect to get pregnant before next Christmas.
Oh, God, I can't afford a kid with this. Dave, you're forgetting 125 week in cans. I don't think that's going to support any life outside of the Fedzino.
Well, then sub in Big Sexy. I'm sure you can help out.
This is Uncle Big Sexy. He's be watching you this weekend.
I think
Who's
a
Big
lot of
Sexy?
it. I think a lot of it has to do with patience as well. I think it's all about because you're learning like who likes to do dishes right away, who likes to do this, who likes to do that. So there's strengths and weaknesses about each one of you, and you have to be able to recognize them early on and go, okay, like that's something that you really want to have accomplished. You're better at it. You do that, but I'll take on this because I'm better at that.
Well, you know what he's going to be really good at is laying on his back for the first 3 months.
That was actually in the notes from the surgeon of like, you can't do anything. If you're watching the video version, you know what I'm talking about. The surgeon said 3 weeks, you do nothing.
Nothing.
You just sit there. Mm-hmm. You sit there and you work on jaw strength. That's it.
Wow. Wow. Sounds fun.
So and this is actually in the legitimate like thing that the surgeon and I talked about, just like things like that. Also, so the surgery is being done in Winnipeg, and Dave and I talked about this before we started recording. One of the biggest contributors for setbacks for surgery like this is like slipping on ice, slipping on snow. Obviously, Winnipeg, where the surgery is being done, is a prime candidate for that. And when we're talking about like my career and an opportunity to actually be healthy, I don't want to do that. So going to Vancouver where there's no snow and it's a lot nicer, it's going to help with that as well. I think too, the patience element of like, I'm going to be really, really, really slow the first little bit. Like, I'm going to be like hobbling around like a turtle. There'll probably be the old dudes at the seniors home down the street from where she lives that are going to go faster than me.
Bingo.
So it's going to be
become a bingo guy.
If I get there in time.
For the record, all this laying on your back stuff has got me excited. Can we wrap this up real quick?
Honestly,
Yes.
I think it's good. Please do respect your surgeon, and this also for her too, right? Like she'll respect the fact that you do need to rest, and this is a really testament of that part of your relationship. But you're only going to be on your back for 3 weeks, and then after that, you're actually living together, and you will be, doing the vacuuming or doing those types of things again, finding that groove with each other.
Well, I'm going to be on crutches so they're saying about 3 to 6 weeks. Could
Wow,
expect
so
a
no
little bit
vacuuming
more.
for 3 to 6 weeks. Wow, she's okay.
That sucks.
Well, so one of my biggest problems is like purpose in life, right? Like especially like there's nothing worse than when you're injured or like not able to play because there's no purpose. So for me, my purpose is like getting myself healthy, not re-injuring myself. I think a lot of upper body workouts because I can't move with my lower body for probably the first like 2 months for the most part.
Wow.
So if you see me getting a little bit thicker in the shoulders, that's why, because I can't really do anything else. I'll just be sitting in a chair just hammering curls and shoulder press at the gym 4 or 5 days a week. No wheelchair though, which is great. As far as like a timeline goes, so the surgery is going to be January 4th in Winnipeg. I'll be in crutches probably till like sometime in February. I should be somewhat back to normal by April, making progress by May, and they're expecting me to start skating lightly beginning of July. But the expectation is I will be ready for a full training camp, wherever that is, whether it's with the Motor City Rockers, with one of the new expansion teams that also could pick me up during the expansion draft. For September 1 is the goal to have me 100% ready for training camp, which is also Victoria's birthday.
Aww.
But
well, you're better suited for North American hockey if that's your timeline, because I know a lot of camps usually start in July in overseas.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I've talked to my agent about, is that there may have to be some talks about that with teams, but like, hey, Trav isn't going to be ready if something was to pop up. Because also one thing worth noting, so the team is going to, Candice, you missed this, but the team is going to be paying me for the entirety of the season. They're going to be mailing me 4 checks every month to just sit on my back and recover and get healthy, which is awesome. So to our management, to our ownership, and to the league also, for thank you for paying me. I really appreciate that. But so they lose my rights end of May when the expansion draft comes in and the new teams come in. So they could pay me for the rest of the season and then lose me for nothing. So to the Motor City Rockers, thank you for that. Thank you for Dave for doing this podcast with me every single week. Thank you for Candice for coming on and allowing Dave to do it. And
allowing. No, we gotta drop that. No, don't allow him. I encourage. I think that's one thing, again, of talking about a relationship. You encourage each other's strength and growth and changes.
And
I'm not the same person that I was when we met, and I think that's a big part of it. But I do appreciate you saying that. I know how much you enjoys it. But when you first started out saying that, I want to add. You said that you resting is hard. Really, it's what I heard from you. We're like, resting is hard, but knowing how much you were driven, and what I've heard from Dave and what I've heard about this podcast, take that rest so seriously. And like, people forget how much they can actually heal their own body by actually listening to it and resting. We have this mentality in North America to just keep going. Come on, keep going, and we're injured. And I think that it sounds like you understand it and you want to get back into the game. So I ask you to rest when you've got this wonderful woman who's going to help take care of you.
She's a pretty smart, man. You should listen to her.
She is very intelligent. Another thing worth noting is just Dave and I both have very unique reputations in the online world, both in Winnipeg and outside. So it's nice that we're both able to come together and make this podcast happen. And
you guys
to
have
everybody listening to
reputations
the
I need to
podcast.
know about, because
He's a goalie. He's weird.
Didn't you hear about Dave? You didn't hear about Dave? No, we'll talk about it after.
I don't read the paper. I don't read the paper. I don't know what's going on.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay,
anyway,
thanks. I appreciate it.
We'll cap the podcast here. So to everybody who has listened up to this point, we're I think 54 minutes and we're rolling here like harder than Fred Durst. But thank you so much to everybody for listening. The podcast will continue every Sunday. Yeah, keep rolling, baby. Keep on rolling. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. in Winnipeg, 9 a.m. in Calgary, 8 on the West Coast in Vancouver, San Francisco, Los Angeles. That's also 4 p.m. in Sweden, 3 in the UK, 5 in Finland, and 11 p.m. in China. That's 4 p.m.
right?
in Norway as well.
Wow.
I love the Norwegians.
Yeah,
Thank you to Sheath.
We got people listening in China while they're protesting. Yeah.
Thank you to everybody at Sheath for partnering up with the podcast till the beginning of July. If you want to pick up some Sheath Underwear, Bizkit69 is the code. There's a link in the video description. And we will see you, me and Dave, probably not Candice, but Dave and I will see you very soon on the next episode of the podcast next Sunday. Thanks for listening.